Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 12th Canadian Science Policy Conference, CSPC 2020. Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs, et bienvenue à la 12e conférence sur la politique scientifique canadienne. We'll continue with the virtual format interview series, and we are pleased to have with us Dr. Joy Johnson, the very new president of Simon Fraser University. She's, of course, no stranger to Simon Fraser University, as she served as Vice President Research for many years. Welcome to the conference, Dr. Johnson.
Thank you very much. It's absolutely a pleasure to be back with you.
Excellent. So if you don't mind, I start with a couple of questions. First, as a new president of the university, I am just wondering if you have set your vision and priorities for SFU as the new president of the university.
Well, that's an excellent question. I believe that a vision for a university needs to be a shared vision. And so while I have priorities, and I'll tell you about a few of them, there's work to be done to engage the university and to be thinking about the pathway forward. Obviously, we're going to continue to build on our excellent reputation, both in terms of our education and our research. But the other fact of the matter is that we're living within the context of a global pandemic. So priorities are shifting with that. And I would also say, as we move forward, I'm mindful that it's probably not the best time to go out with a robust strategic planning process, in part because things are changing so rapidly. So we are focusing on a few priorities this year, and one of them obviously is resilience and recovery for our community.
That's very interesting to hear. And okay, so I'm just wondering, I know that this is something important to you personally, is the equity, diversity, inclusion in the university. I am wondering, as a general question for you as a university administrator, but also as a president of SFU, how can post-secondary institutions in general and at the SFU strengthen the support for EDI, and what are your plans for that?
Yeah, so I think we all recognize that the global pandemic has shone a light on a number of inequities. But even before we were brought into this time, I had indicated to the university that I felt there was a priority to focus on inclusion. I believe that there is a lot of work to do for institutions to think about how we are responsive to the needs of our faculty, staff, and students. And I know at SFU and at a number of other institutions that not all our faculty, staff, and students do feel included. We do experience incidents of racism. We do experience incidents where our community members don't feel as included as they need to. So we need a strategy, and part of that is to listen. I think first and foremost, to listen to our communities about their experiences and to determine how to respond. I also think it's particularly for our leadership team, we need to get educated. So I am bringing education to our executive leadership team to think about what our responsibilities need to be in terms of equity, diversity, and inclusion. And we're developing an operational plan looking at education and how we support anti-racism, how we support addressing concerns when they arise. And we're also going to focus on collecting more robust data so that we can hold ourselves accountable. I think you can appreciate from an evidence-based perspective that we need to track progress and be accountable. And that's certainly something that I'm hoping to do as we move forward as well, Mehrdad.
That's great. So just the issue of the day, of course, we are all dealing with the pandemic and have impacted our lives greatly. And we are still during the pandemic. Apparently, we are seeing a second surge of the pandemic, unfortunately. But the general question is, I want to know what are your visions on how do you see research in general impacting a COVID, or more importantly, a post-COVID world? How can universities factor into the recovery? Because we are talking recovery, there are plans for this. How do you see universities can play a role in this?
Yeah, so maybe first of all, in relation to COVID-19, SFU researchers, we've been active from the very beginning in terms of doing research looking at the response to the pandemic. We've got researchers looking at policy issues, for example, around the gender divide and the ways in which the pandemic is differentially affecting particular groups. We've got basic science research focused on new methods of detection of the virus. So we're doing that work, and I think that's really important work to be done. Jeff Redding, one of our faculty members, is deeply engaged with our Indigenous communities, looking at that response. But to your point, the question is what to the future? And I believe that universities will play a key role in helping to think through and support recovery. Not only because we're a big economic driver in our communities, obviously our students, faculty, and staff, these are large populations that are making a difference in our communities, but also we're beginning to have conversations with industry about their need to pivot and what additional support we can provide from an educational perspective to help them make sure that their employees are moving in the direction they need to move in. But also from a research standpoint, I think that we can play a role. There's a lot of interest in, for example, the greening of the economy, the ways in which we might be able to lean in and take our capacities to do better, to think through the opportunities through economic recovery to make a difference to society through our research, but also through our education. One thing I would also say is that we're having a conversation as well as a university about what things will look like post-pandemic. And we are learning a lot of really important things about how we work virtually, about the way we can be responsive. And it's my hope that we won't just, quote, return to normal, but that we will have learned from these experiences and harness this new knowledge so that we can be a better institution and a more responsive institution.
As a follow-up question to that, if I may, I'm wondering if yourself and the university executive are in touch and in connection with the policymakers, especially at the city level or at the provincial level. How are these connections?
Yeah, so there's so many connections taking place. Obviously, we're working very closely with our municipal and our provincial counterparts, government counterparts. And we need to make sure there are those alignments. We also, early on in the pandemic, put together a network of community groups and academics, students and staff, a network really trying to look at ways that we can respond together. We can take our assets and be responsive to answer community questions, to be thinking about ways that we can work together. So your question, I think, is really important because obviously recovery, resilience is going to require strong partnerships. And those are partnerships with government at all levels, but also partnerships with community and partnerships as well with industry. And as Canada's engaged university, I will say that's something SFU is going to continue to double down on and be thinking about. And we need to continue in this virtual world, thinking about ways that we can engage in a meaningful way and strengthen those relationships.
Excellent. So the last question, maybe, you have been coming to CSPC in the past few years, and SFU has been a partner of the conference, and CSPC, we appreciate the support and very happy and honored to have your engagement with our efforts. I want to ask you about your experience at CSPC as a conference and the value and contribution of CSPC in general to the community. How do you see that?
Well, I have to say that our SFU's experience at CSPC really has been invaluable. Science and science policy is a global endeavor, and so we need to make sure that we are connecting with partners and counterparts. And this conference really provides an excellent mechanism for that. we certainly find it valuable both in terms of the presentations that take place and the engagement that is topical and relevant to all of us. But I also would say, for me as well as a number of my colleagues, it's also the connections, opportunities to have those hallway conversations with really important actors, government officials, industry, and others who are really concerned about the state of evidence, how evidence is informing policy. And I guess the challenge now is to think about how we can have those hallway conversations virtually, because they are really important. It's important that we are sharing our concerns, talking about the way forward together, and the role that science will play. There's such an opportunity right now because science is playing such an important role in our society. We're seeing it every day in the news, and we need to continue to capitalize on that. And certainly the conference really is a perfect vector for that, to really have those critical conversations and to make sure that we are moving forward and encouraging evidence-informed policymaking.
Excellent. Thank you for that. So as you know that we have organized, some really good networking sessions as well as open mic sessions to increase the engagement of the participants. So we'll see after the conference how the responses to the surveys are. We're trying to do our best to keep those connections, as you rightfully mentioned. So that was it for us. Thank you so very much. I just want to bring it to the attention of the conference participants and delegates that make sure you capture the panels organized by Simon Fraser University. They are listed in the program page, and they have organized excellent speakers and topics for you. Make sure you capture them. And I just want to thank you for your time. Bonne conférence à vous, and for everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to speak with you today.
Same here.